Thank you very much. It's a really great pleasure to be here. Coming here, actually, I feel a bit emotional because what I see you is just what I look, when I was, 20, 30 years ago, very struggling. I remember there was a long, long time ago, I was, by whatever luck, people just don't believe it, I got a job in Australia. That was in late, early 90s. And mom just gave me $100. That's the only thing we have. And I just came to Australia, right? I've been struggling all through. So I think some of you these days are much luckier than we were. But I'm pretty sure that you will. I mean, it'd be great for me to share a bit of experience with you, right? Just cut the story short. Why I work, Australia has a sort of a progress along the way, over the last 30 years. Quite a remarkable sort of progression in the society. I remember when I was, first started trying to get a job, very hard to get a job. So eventually I could land a job in Rockhampton. Anybody knows Rockhampton? That was part of the Queensland, in the tropical, in the Capricorn, Queensland is a small city. And I have a conversation with my colleague. I got a lecture job there. And when we're talking about boat people, anybody know boat people? This kind of, that in 1980s wave of new arrival because of the Vietnam War. And actually the colleague asked me, say, how did you get here? And I respond to it. I said, at this time, it wasn't by boat, but it was by plane. Yeah, so, but you think more than 20 years, Australia has progressed. In particular, you can see so many faces. What I'm going to talk about is, that's the problem with you as the last speaker, right? I remember I prepared about 40 slides. I knew that as the last speaker, because every time one speaker came along, it was chipping off the presentation. So now 40 slides, now it's probably just become five slides now. So what I will do is probably really some conversation is kind of reflection, from my point of view. I mean, I'm an electrical engineer by training, and through my eyes, and see how the world has changed. And also, I think in particular for lots of you coming here, many people from overseas, probably some of the way, the philosophy, how I survived. People thought, gee, this guy doing great, look at this so many achievements. But we've been struggled. I struggled as well. I've been knocked down many times, right? Being sort of, having many difficulties, but eventually, for whatever luck, but you succeeded. But that just share some of the experience. The thing I would really want to talk about, you can see the Chaminda is talk about broader, this kind of where the trend. Jenny is talking about design, and Jason is talking about what's the future of blockchain. So what I'm trying to talk about is really sort of reflective, right? From my point of view, the thing I really want to share with you is how can you strive in this very complex world? The one thing I want to talk about is about how the world has changed and how the society has changed along the world. So this is actually one of the slides I usually give in a very academic lectures, talking about world changes. So if you look at the human history, we have been through so many changes, but the human society, the progression is so fast, exponential, right? In particular, in the last 100, 200 years. If you look at this in the end of 18th century, we start this kind of industrial revolution, right? That's from the UK. They start from there. There's so many machines created. And in 20th century, you got these motor vehicles, automotive. And then you can see that in the 70s, you got these machineries, many of the electronics, the automotive automated so many productions. And what do you see today now? You can see today is this is a very technical term. Talk about cyber-physical system means is actually interaction of physical. You can see anything we are having is a physical, like machines, trams, vehicles, trains, the physical thing, but they're all connected by information technology. So this is we call the cyber-physical system. This we call Industry 4.0. So what that means is that the technology has evolved. For example, in my experience, when I was young, doing the electrical engineer, we have to do this all very dirty hand stuff, wetting the pots, and have an explosion a few times as well. That's just happened. But if you see what we're doing now, is so many changes. The technology is so advanced that the maturity of technology, basically you don't need to have to worry about it. But the only thing is, what we call is the interaction. It is like the human, we are society as well. The internet plays such a big role. And any of you would have this kind of mobile phone, right? We're all sort of connected. Machine is the same thing. The world has just all connected. So it's basically the future. What I see the future is really, this is, technology is so advanced, so it's giving us the opportunity to think about so many components, how they can interact with each other to save the world, to save money, save the world, much more efficient, and for the future. So this is actually the future. I actually written in one of the top journals about what's the future is really you have this kind of social aspects. So the technologists, we should be socially responsible, and of course the social science people, we look at the technology, how can the country. So this is a lot of conversation between us. So one thing I just want to give you an example, what we are doing right now is we're doing some of the, I would consider together with many people in the world, we're doing this as some kind of what do we call you see the words a lot, energy internet technology. What that means in the future, right? It won't be too far, I think maybe 10 or 20 years later, you can go to any socket anywhere, just plug in, you can become an energy generator, and you can, you can use the energy, of course, but you can, create that energy. You can sell your energy as well. And then you can use the blockchain to do the automatic trading of the energy without any big generator, without any big, this kind of centralized, this kind of currently the regulator. You don't have to do that. So there's a very exciting future. But if I see how the industry, I think there's one, I think there's one slide missing. How the industry has changed is, I see that in 1980s, 70s, in my electrical power engineering, we have seen so many people, you can see lots of label, the people, electricians coming to your household, installing things. And there's another group of people is designing the machinery, generators, electronics, and putting things together, and there's a tradesman. So what you're seeing today is those people, you still need those people. The number is much more reduced. The people we are having right now, more and more people is system engineering, how to put things together to make sure that they work together to give you the efficient operations. And also IT professionals. Many of my graduates, in the PhD doctor student, they graduate. They went to power industry, right? But the job is not going to the field. It is not. It is the data. It's the energy data. How do you make sense from the data, which is AI, right? How do you know from so many sensors, the data, understand how the network operates, how to charge, how to maintain the things. So this is whole thing has changed. And in the future, which there's another slide I think missing here, is that in 20, 30 years' time, there's more and more people who move into computer science, information technology, economy, and the social science as well, environmental science. So this is going to be the future where they move. So another thing I want to talk about is really about, as I said, to be reflective, right? You probably say that the world has become so fast, it's so complex. How do you deal with that? Right? So you probably have to have some belief. As a human species, we've been survived for 200,000 years. We're doing very well. So you have to believe in yourself, you'll be okay. The question is, how can you be okay? So one of the things I think is the way, how do you see the world? When you see something complex, I think it's kind of frustration because you just can't deal with it. But you would have some experience when you have a very good night's sleep. The second day you come back, you just suddenly say, hey, the problem is solved. So this is the way, the solving problem, that's why the world now becomes so many people got depressed, it's just too fast. But as an individual, I think it's about yourself. How do you see the world, right? For example, if you think about the population, we have 70 billion people around the world. You think about the relationship, it's so complex. But there's a study, the physics study, show that the world is actually pretty small. I think you all have the experience. The world is actually pretty small. You actually pick up any two persons in the world in no more than 6 connections. I know you, you know that, you will know the person. So if you think from that point of view, the world is not actually complex. So this is just one way to look at the world. But you can actually solving problem in your life in the same way. How do you see it? The thing I want to sort of really, I think there's another slide. So there's a couple of things I want to talk about to be in the world. How do you sort of strive in the world? I think from my experience, one thing is you got to be persistent, right? Resilient, which I think is very, very important. In particular, in a new country, new environment, how can you sort of survive? It's very important to me is to be persistent, resilient, right? So I remember when I give a talk, writing a paper, talking to this new student, I said, you just consider rejection is the norm, right? Don't consider stressed out. If you reject it, that's supposed to be rejected. But if you accept it, celebrate it. If you reject it, don't worry about it. Have a drink, sleep well, and coming back again. So you're persistent. You always probably have experience. The person win the race is not the person run the fastest. It's the person persist. Right? So that's very, very important to be sort of resilient, to be persistent. And also, I think another important thing is that's why I have the experience is actually I've been talking to some of the industry partners. One struck me is I think quite a few years ago, I spoke to one of the defense industry. I say, hey, we have RMIT graduates, Chaminda say, all graduates great. Yes, all graduates great. I say they have great skills, they can do the job. What are you looking for? He said, the person said, shocked me. He said, well, I mean, if somebody come to me, the first thing I want to ask the question is, have you worked in McDonald's? If somebody say yes, I will appoint it. I say, why ask the question? He said, the reason is teamwork. McDonald's tells you how do you work together to deliver a burger from the order to you in 40 seconds. Skill is important, of course, it's the ability. But this is kind of a new way, a new world. The word is you got to collaborate, right? You got to work with others. Knowledge is important, but knowledge is not only thing. I think some speaker already mentioned we are evolved so fast. Knowledge is just too fast. The thing remain with you is your ability, resilience, ability, your drive to achieve. To sort of realize your value in your lifetime. You really want to do something, and that will remain with you. So I think that's sort of a lesson I learned, so I just want to share with you, and hopefully this will be useful for your future. So thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah.